Hello students, welcome to week 8 for COM 425 Organizational Communication. We are in the last week of the course and you should feel proud of all the effort you've made so far in the course as we're currently wrapping things up and finishing some of our final course objectives this week. You'll notice we're covering the topic, the changing landscape of organizations, in this lecture and in this week. We are reading chapters 13 and 14, watching 2 videos related to the course content. We have modified deadlines for week 8. Our discussion board post is due on Friday with replies post due on Saturday, and we have our case study number 4 due on Saturday as well. The discussion board this week asks you to look at the idea in the terms convergence and divergence and how those approaches to globalization is discussed in the text. Specifically, you should discuss how the manufacturing firm with plants in a variety of global locations might illustrate each of these approaches to communication within the organization. In particular, you should look at how the shift to a service-based economy has affected workers, employers, and the nature of communication within organizations. Remember, this post should be about 200 to 300 words, and you should have reply posts, at least 2 of them, to course mates. This is due on Friday with the replies due on Saturday, as the course end date is Saturday. Case study number 8 asks you to spend some time looking at a prompt related to 9/11. In the wake of the September 11th attacks, we have an actual scenario of what organizational communication may look like with employees and such. So read through the scenario provided in Blackboard and then address the 3 prompts in the case study discussion questions. Particularly, I want you to spend some time thinking about your own experiences in the days, weeks, months, and years following the 9/11 attack. What were your personal thoughts, your personal connection to it, how it made you feel? Think about how emotions in the workplace maybe impacted you or didn't impact you. If it didn't impact you much or you were too young to really experience this in the workplace, then think about how it meant to you in a personal stance or what information you've consumed related to this topic. So now you can kind of reflect and think about how it may affect people in the workplace. We're dealing with emotions in the workplace and the topics of emotional labor. So as you look at this, think about burnout and things of this nature in answering this case study discussion question. Remember, it's important to make sure that you include at least 2 outside sources and that you relate it specifically to items that we have discussed in the text. Particularly, I want to spend some time looking at social information processing theory. This is an objective socio-psychological theory. It's rooted in the socio-psychological tradition within communication theory. It was developed by Joseph Walther. In particularly, SIP, which it's considered, is really an interpersonal communication theory, but also a media studies theory. Specifically, it considers computer-mediated communication effects on processing information. What that means is it looks at how we utilize computer-mediated communication, so media and communication created through either computer or smart device, emails, blogs, websites, policies, anything that's electronic communication, and the effects it has on people when they're processing information. Social information processing theory explains to us, really in an online interpersonal communication environment without nonverbal cues, how we can develop and manage relationships in those environments, really is what it is. So we take this idea of social information and what that impression formation becomes and how it impacts developing relationships. So if you're a manager or you're in a high position at a company and all you send out to your subordinates are scathing emails that come off or can be interpreted as being very stern or authoritative in nature, that will impact the relationships you develop with your subordinates. Specifically, this interpersonal communication theory was developed in 1992 with the advent of computer-mediated communication and emails becoming to fruition. It explains how we really would traditionally refer to those communications that would take place in face-to-face meetings now taking place in computer-mediated formats. We lose that interpersonal face-to-face interaction. So if we were delivering a not-so-great policy in the past in a face-to-face meeting, we'd be able to sit there and maybe use some sarcasm, relate to them more in our nonverbal cues, and put some information in there that lets them know that we're human and we understand where they're coming from, instead of delivering it via email or it's left to interpretation of the reader. Social information processing theory argues that online personal relationships may demonstrate the same relational dimensions and qualities as face-to-face relationships based off the communication received online. So that's really, really important. These online relationships really help facilitate interactions that would not have occurred in face-to-face circumstances due to geography and things of that nature. As you think about this and its implications related to organizational communication, it's really important to understand how mediated communication can really impact your role as a communicator within an organization. Thinking about it from a leadership perspective is we can use computer-mediated technologies and environments to connect with people in ways we haven't before. People now, telecommute or work remotely and don't physically go into an office very often in some companies, and that's completely fine. But we have to think about how we're utilizing computer-mediated communication technologies to build and create the company and workplace culture we would like to create without them physically being here. So if we're having monthly meetings and we can see that it's great to be physically at those monthly meetings, but we have people maybe connecting via video conferencing systems and softwares and things like that, we need to figure out a way to effectively convey our corporate and company culture and communication through those computer-mediated devices, as this theory tells us that you can demonstrate the same relational dimensions and qualities as you would in a face-to-face relationship. Very, very important. This can go both ways in being positive and negative towards a company. And so it's really interesting to consider this at this point in time and looking at how communication technology impacts communication processes within organizations. I've included a screen grab of table 13.1 and chapter 13. It's really important and interesting to look at how communication technology is considered based off of the organizational communication approaches we've studied this term. It's important that we be familiar with information and communication technology in the workplace and appreciate how these technologies might differ from more traditional modes of communication. It's important that we learn how to explain the process of technology adoption and the use of it in an organizational setting, differentiating between a focus of the attributes of the media and a focus on the communication of social relationships. As we begin to understand that technology can have a variety of effects on organizational processes, including decision-making and power, it's important that we appreciate the role of social media in this process, ranging from the communication of corporate identity to organizing for social justice and things of that nature. As we consider this, we can see how computer-mediated technologies can radically change organizational structures, especially in the form like we've talked about in virtual teams and people telecommuting or working remotely without physically having a presence in the office. If we consider how communication technology would be impactful from the classical approach to organizational communication, we can see that this approach would view technology as a tool that can be used to enhance the efficiency of organizations by supplementing and replacing the efforts of human workers. Whereas if we looked at it from a cultural perspective, communication technologies would be seen as a symbolic manifestation of organizational culture as a medium through which cultural values can be communicated. This is important when we're thinking about social information processing theory. If we consider it critically, we know that communication technology is seen as a means for repressing workers through descaling jobs and information control, but alternatively can enhance the work situation for many people. So as we consider it, look at these approaches and determine which one you align with most. Are you more classical or cultural, or maybe you're more critical or human relations related to how communication can enhance and work in the workplace? A lot of this can be applied to our discussion this week. If you have any questions at all, please reach out. We are wrapping up the term this week. We have a short week. It ends on Saturday, and so it's important that we get all information and all assignments in by that time. They only provide us with a short 24-hour period to submit grades, so it's very important that you stick to all deadlines this week, as that can impact your final grade. Grades are submitted the Monday following the course end date. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, just to recap, we are reading 2 chapters related to the course text, watching 2 videos, as well as completing 2 assignments. Our discussion board is due on Friday with replies due on Saturday. That's a date change. Please note that it's in Blackboard, as well as our case study is due on Saturday as well. If you have any questions, please refer to Blackboard, the syllabus for actual deadlines and such, or reach out to me, and I'm more than willing to chat with you via email or phone or in person, whichever you would prefer. Have a great week, and God bless.